Even if you think it's harmless, I can promise you anything involving the awakening of a deadly, devilish demon probably isn't. Number 5 on this list is the ritual to the other side. This is a ritual performed to let you experience a little bit of the demon world. Now, unlike some of the other demonic rituals on this list, it's relatively tame and your life, it's not going to be at stake. However, the mental strain that it can have on you can be extremely costing. You're going to need a sizable mirror, enough that you can put both of your hands flat on it while still seeing your upper body. A completely pitch black room with absolutely no light whatsoever, a singular candle, but one that isn't too large and won't illuminate the whole room, just something where you can see yourself. Also, an alarm and somewhere to sleep. Now, after you have your items, go take a nap. You want to set your alarm for roughly 2 hours of sleep so that when you wake up, you are decently dazed and not fully aware. Right when you wake up, go to your room with your mirror and make it pitch black. Then light your candle and have it somewhere out of sight, just enough light that you can make out your face in the mirror. You want to place both hands on the mirror roughly shoulder width apart and start to stare at yourself. Focus on yourself. Your focus needs to be impeccable if you want this to work. Now start to alter your breathing. A slow breathe in and a longer exhale. You want your mind and your body to go completely blank and feel as if they're exiting your body. If you're doing all of this properly, then you should start to feel subtle vibrations in your hands that ring throughout your arms. This should be followed by your face starting to distort as if you were hallucinating. Now is when the real images start though. People have reported seeing flashes of loved ones who have died where they're supposed to be standing in the mirror, or have their own bodies start to morph into a demon. Sounds and voices will begin to ring throughout the supposedly silent room, and in extreme cases, your entire room will morph itself into a fiery hell. You have now calmed your mind to a state where it is capable of comprehending the demon realm, and you are in it. Now, it's relatively easy to snap out of this place and no harm will come to you, but that's not the case for some people. This experience can be extremely jarring and haunt people for the rest of their lives. In very rare cases, people who have tried this have descended into a deep depression or even madness. I can only imagine that knowing what is on the other side and what could be potentially waiting for us is a very scary place to be. Sometimes, guys, ignorance truly is bliss. Number 4 on this list is a game called the Devil's Game. In this ritual, you will basically be summoning the devil, and summoning the devil can be extremely dangerous. To perform the Devil's Game, you will need a few items. A can of salt, 7 candles, red or white is preferred, a lighter or match to light those candles, some red string, it could be rope or yarn if that's what you have, but the color has to be red. You'll also need a full-length mirror. Mirrors are pretty common in these rituals, by the way. And lastly, this must be done in a church, and it must be done at midnight when you do it. Also, you are not allowed to have anything electronic or any religious paraphernalia that may help you, like holy water. Now take your salt and surround the mirror on the ground. Then wrap your mirror with the red string. Take your candles and light them and space them out around the mirror as well. All of these things are actually to help protect you from the devil. The summoning you still have to do. To summon the devil, you actually have to do something sacrilegious in the church. This could be anything, but I think the easiest would be some sort of vandalism. Do that and then close all the doors to the room and kill the lights so that you're only lit by the candles. Close your eyes now and count to 10 with the distinct image of the devil in your mind. After you reach 10, open them. You should be staring directly at the devil in the mirror in place of yourself. Now, the devil didn't come all of this way just to look at you. He wants to play, and the game is a simple question and answer game. If you get something right, he'll answer your questions truthfully, but it's not that easy. This is the devil, and the questions that he asks will be specifically made to stump you. In fact, the questions that he asks will be ones that you're never 100% sure that you know the answer to, and therefore you can never be 100% sure if he is telling the truth to you or a lie when he answers your questions. So when you ask him, "How am I gonna die?" and he answers with, "You're gonna get hit by a bus," is that the truth? Or is that a lie? You're never gonna know, and for the rest of your life, you will most likely be petrified of buses. Occasionally, he will also dare you to do something. Now, this is interesting because if you complete the dare, you will know for certain that the next thing you ask him will be true. If you do the dare, you could ask him next week's winning lottery numbers and he'd have to tell you the truth. But the dare he gives you, it's not gonna be pleasant. self-harm, hurting those that you love, completely going against any morals that you thought you had. Those are all completely on the table. You could stand to gain a lot from this game. However, you could also stand to lose a lot or gain absolutely nothing at all, just a bunch of paranoia. Anytime you summon the devil, it's a bad idea, and the devil's game is no different. Number 3 on this list is Veronica's game. Now, Veronica's game is a demonic ritual that will summon Veronica, a demon girl who died playing a very similar game many years ago. To get this demon's attention, you will need a few items: a mirror, again, a clock, a quiet room, a candle. This ritual will also require you to perform it at midnight, just like the other ones. Have the mirror set up in your quiet room so that it's at eye level with you. At exactly midnight, light the candle and stare into the mirror. Veronica. Veronica. You have to repeat her name 9 times, staring at yourself in the mirror. After you have done so, extinguish the candle and leave the room. Now, why is this called a game? I don't really understand, because there's really nothing fun about it at all. She's with you now. The demon Veronica is now there with you, and whenever you are by yourself, you will feel her presence. You have just awoken a demon who doesn't want to be awake right now, and she's going to haunt you. You'll feel the temperature start to drop whenever you're by yourself. You may hear sounds that you can't identify or sense movement that you don't understand. It's said that if you ever make fun of Veronica in any way, then that's going to be the last thing that you do. This demon supposedly carries around a pair of scissors at all times and will use them on you if she ever feels that you're taunting her. This demonic ritual should absolutely never be performed, because you stand absolutely nothing to gain and potentially your life to lose. Number 2 on this list is a ritual performed by a bunch of high school students in 1986. Now, this ritual has less to do about the otherworldly things that you may summon and more to do with the fact that this is just wrong and you shouldn't ever do this. 12 high school students were linked to a demonic ritual with the goal of praising Satan and cleansing the world of what Satan or these students may qualify as unworthy. These students had found an abandoned house that they painted black and used that as their main base of operations. They painted it black as apparently a way of keeping the badness in and the goodness out. It was here that they had been performing several demonic rituals for months. One of their rituals, though, culminated on the witch's Sabbath. They had been preparing for this day for quite a while, drawing blood circles in their abandoned home, and speaking various incantations to please their devilish lord. The final act, though, involved a sacrifice. On the witch's Sabbath, one of the 12 high school students, a 15-year-old, snuck into an older student's bedroom with a shotgun and used him for the sacrifice. Yeah, this entry gets kinda real. This was their demonic sacrifice meant to appease the devil. Now, I can't say for certain whether the actual ritual worked, because there's currently no knowledge on that. But what I do know is that the 15-year-old and those involved went to jail for a very long period of time. I also know that a 17-year-old boy who had absolutely nothing to do with anything died. Like I said, this one on the list is less about what you may summon and the consequences with that, but more about the fact that you should just never do this. And the fact that people thought this was a good idea is just complete insanity. Number 1 on this list is a ritual performed by 2 high school students, Mike and Sid. Now, although Mike and Sid kind of sounds like a great name for a sitcom or like a really good cop show, these guys get a little bit darker than that. Longtime high school friends and big fans of the horror movie genre in general, one evening they stumble upon a ritual on a deep part of the internet. The goal is to summon a demon. Even though the boys have a deep respect for demons and don't want to mess around, it's promised online that this demon will be thankful for being summoned and won't cause you any harm. What you need for this ritual is a frog and a specific incantation in a language called Enochian. I couldn't find the specific incantation that the boys used, and frankly, I mean, it's probably a good thing that this information is difficult to locate. Grab your frog by its hind legs. This is gonna be difficult because it has to still be alive when you are doing this. Stick it directly into sunlight and begin to speak your Enochian incantation. Now, I kinda hate this next part because I love animals, but as you're speaking your hex, kill the frog. Let the blood of the frog drop to the ground. If your spell is working, then you will notice pretty rapidly that the frog itself will start to wither up and shrink. Now, it's said that this should summon a demon in front of you. However, when the boys did this, that's not what happened. Sid was watching as Mike uttered the final words to their ritual. After it was done, Mike stood there for a moment, silently, with the dead, withered up frog in his hands, until he twisted his head 180 degrees backwards and stared directly at Sid with his eyes rolled completely back in his head. Then, without warning, he lunged after Sid in a fully unnatural, inhuman way, spitting and cursing as he did. Sid dodged him and ran out of the house as fast as he could, not stopping for 10 whole minutes. After an hour of waiting and regaining his courage, he carefully made his way back to go check on his friend. Mike was lying completely naked with scratches all over his body, unconscious in the middle of the basement. When he woke up, he had absolutely no memory of the entire incident at all and doesn't know how he got there.
A Canadian nature lover's attempt to capture wildlife on camera backfired very terrifyingly after she inadvertently documented what appeared to be nude witches eating an animal carcass at night right by her house. She's like, I don't know what the heck was up with that. Her name is Cora Stanhope, and she told Kennedy News of the spine-tingling sight. She's like, it really freaked us out. It's not something you see every day. The Powell River native had reportedly been riding one of her horses when she came across a dead deer in her garden. While most folks might have turned their nose up at the sight, the mother and her grandpa Bob, 76, decided to set up a camera to see if it would attract any critters, just for funsies. Well, the next day she checks in, and grandpa said he'd gotten nude people on camera, and she's like, no you didn't, BS. So he showed her. Well, these bone-chilling photos, taken just after sunset, showed two disheveled looking women with long black hair obscuring their faces, squatting over the dead deer and appearing to dine on its remains. The wicked hungry pair are completely in the nude, minus what looks like loincloths over their nether regions, in what looks like found footage horror film-esque sort of photos. It looks like they have wigs on, said Stanhope. One looks like she has maybe blonde hair underneath. She's like, you can't really tell from the photos, but the hoof was brought right up to her mouth. Our poor witness said she wasn't sure if the so-called witches were kissing it, smelling, or eating it, but she was nevertheless sickened by the ritual, given the amount of bacteria that was probably on the decaying carcass. She said she was especially creeped out because the impromptu cuddling session occurred only 2 minutes from her house. She's like, I was concerned about them messing with my horses at night. Apparently the horses always get really spooked and unnerved around that area, and horses are pretty prone to being able to be in tune with things. She said, I thought they imagined stuff at first, so she didn't think anything of it, but now she believes them. Social media seemed concerned that the Canadian had witnessed witches, a local cult, or some other malevolent entity performing a demonic ritual. This is actually terrifying, commented one viewer. Well, another was like, that's an S-walker. They look humans, so you come up to them, and once you do, you're gone. And that's basically a walking demon from hell, said a third. If you hear screaming, stay inside, get a weapon, leave it alone. Some commenters suggested they were part of some, demonic cult, and I believe them. Back in 2021, Australia's ABC network was playing a routine news telecast when the anchor was taken by surprise as an unexpected satanic clip played during a switch of visuals. The anchor in question, Yvonne Young, was presenting a story about Queensland's proposal to make killing of police horses or dogs a criminal offense. Her narration was visually cut by a frame of 3 officers walking, then it pans back to her. Pretty typical, right? Well, a few seconds later, her narration once again gets interrupted by a change of visuals, but this time the network played a satanic ritual on screen during the live telecast. In that scene of just a few seconds, a man can be seen standing in a black robe. Another person is seen standing beside the robe-clad person, and then there's somebody seen sitting next to a keyboard. There's also an upside-down cross in one corner of the room. The whole clip of the satanic ritual played for only a couple of seconds, but was caught by another media house. Also, the man in the black robe can be heard saying, "Hail Satan." The producers realized the mistake and immediately cut the feed, bringing the anchor back on screen. Poor thing stayed silent for a couple of seconds, then quickly started introducing another story, kind of awkwardly. But can you blame her? Some folks believe the people from the visual were members of the Noosa Temple of Satan that at the time was protesting against Queensland's education department regarding religious instruction classes in schools. Meanwhile, the temple themselves retweeted the clip with a caption saying, "Satan works in mysterious ways. I don't want to know." American professional boxer Ryan Garcia recently alleged that Bohemian Grove, which is a place that exists north of San Francisco, is very much real, and it is an elite club where he reportedly witnessed some really heinous stuff we're not supposed to talk about on the internet. He claimed this during an X-Space hangout with Andrew Tate on March 5th earlier this year, and in the wake of his allegations, a video went viral that showed an alleged satanic ritual performed at Bohemian Grove. The video was reportedly leaked back in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist and radio show host Alex Jones, who allegedly infiltrated the Bohemian Grove around the same time after being denied entry multiple times. Well, the visual is kind of hazy, audio's a little unclear, some of the ritual was ongoing with fireworks, cloaked priests, and there's a lot of speculation about alleged satanic ceremonies that have emerged. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience has also gone viral, where he claims that when he trespassed the Grove 2 decades back, he saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, further fueling the alleged satanic ritual speculation. While the Bohemian Club website refutes the claims of secret and illegal affairs going on, or heck even the existence of things, a 2011 article in the Washington Post revealed that the members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly back in the 1940s, and that should alarm you. A mysterious snippet of footage showing people wearing black robes making a human sacrifice in front of a Shiva statue at the CERN, or European Organization for Nuclear Research campus, was posted on YouTube back in 2016 to a lot of debate. Well, a lot of folks were like, it's fake, it's staged. It's been confirmed that the video was indeed filmed at the CERN campus, and these cloaked figures are allegedly CERN researchers performing a satanic human sacrifice at the Large Hadron Collider. So CERN is a highly protected, restricted area with a lot of security gates and CCTV cameras. Another mysterious piece of information is the man who was filming the incident. Despite him freaking out seeing the alleged sacrifice, his reflection on the window pane shows he was wearing the same cloak as everybody else. Creepy. Finally for today, Python cowboy Mike Kimmel appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on August 11th of last year to share a crazy story about stumbling across what looked to be the aftermath of a ritual deep in the Everglades. So he was hunting invasive pythons at the time. And by the way, if you scroll his Instagram long enough, you're gonna see videos of him rescuing raccoons, saving law-abiding alligators from python death grips. He knows what he's talking about. Some of his posts border on full-blown PDA for his hunting dogs. He also shares pictures from guided hunts with clients. He's the real deal. However, his strangest post of all is about the time he came across some peculiar litter around an infamous abandoned Aerojet rocket test facility one night in April of 2019. Kimmel has spent countless hours chasing invasives around this area of the Everglades, and he had to investigate. First, he says he spotted dolls that had their eyes gored out and inverted crosses across their forehead. Then it turned into Latin graffiti sprayed in red paint and a wooden cross stuck in a giant rock pile. The situation really devolved when he climbed up the rock pile and came across a small scarlet snake wrapped around the neck of yet another doll. This snake was still alive, and it was leaking redness from its rear end. Now, according to him, it's rare to find a snake in this area, and it's really weird that it's wrapped around the doll, and also the whole redness thing. The snake's maybe a foot long. It's tiny. Kimmel said he's caught thousands of snakes in his life. None of them have ever been leaking redness out of their rear like that. By this point, he's a little freaked out. Dolls with no eyeballs and a little graffiti is one thing, but a live animal in anguish takes this beyond any kind of silly prank. He said as he was leaving that rock pile, there was a huge spray-painted phrase on the asphalt, maybe 50 feet long, and it was translated to, "He's watching, turn around, run, hide." So he moved further into the main building of the complex, and the more he investigated, the weirder it got. He found a 50-foot spray-painted pentagram with a 3-legged chair in the middle, with a big red stain, like something was sacrificed there. On the walls there were more Latin sayings with upside-down crosses. In another room there was a little nightgown, and he thinks it was spray-painted red, but it was supposed to look like it was covered in bad fluids. There was a lot of phrases on the wall that were talking about sacrificing a human to the devil, and in one of the rooms that he couldn't gain access to, he could tell through a busted-out window that there was a sleeping bag in there, something stuffed inside, and that's when he was like, I'm out of here. Later on, when he got home, he started researching the facility. The man who built it was named Marvel Jack Whiteside Parsons, a Caltech rocket scientist and the co-founder, obviously. He was a known Thelemite occultist, meaning he practiced the Thelema spiritual philosophy and new religion founded in the early 1900s. Now, this isn't directly linked to Satanism, but he was known to conduct rituals summoning goddesses with Scientology founder Ron Hubbard. Enough said. In 5th place, we have a North American ritual. Well, I'm about to talk about rituals in detail. I've left out some steps for safety reasons. If you decide to try and use the rituals, please let me know in the comments what happens. I do not recommend trying to open a portal, especially in our current climate. Seriously, as a Canadian, I've choked on enough forest fire smoke this year. But since this is what y'all want, allow me to begin. For starters, in order to open a powerful portal to hell, it's vital to work in a group, which should be made up of multiple powerful magicians channeling their collective energies into the creation of the portal. The more powerful the summoners there are in a group, the greater the results. Now, the power of the group will also determine how long the portal can remain active, since longer lasting portals allow more demonic forces to enter our plane of reality. Secondly, one must find a suitable area for performing the ritual, ideally in a rural location. The area should be quiet and desolate, free of distractions or unnatural channels of energy. Rooms that are surrounded by nature are the best setting, since it's quite helpful to have a frame for the portal. There are also energy centers from ancient times scattered across the globe that can provide a, tenfold or more of magical energy than a group would be able to manifest on its own. I'm not giving examples there, that's where you've got to do your own research. Next up, the connection between spiritual planes of reality and our own is the most sensitive at 3 a.m. The line between spirit and matter overlaps at this hour, thus making us more aware of the spiritual forces which we'd otherwise not come in contact with. I hope you're a night owl, because I am certainly not these days. One must dress also appropriately for the summoning. Well, there's no high school level dress code. Clothing worn should be simple, uniform, and if you own a dark or red magician's robe, that would be ideal. All folks involved should be dressed the same, but there are 2 variations where 2 exceptions are accepted. The first of the 2 exceptions in regards to colors may be the 1 or 2 magicians who plan on entering the portal. The other exception may be the leader of the group, who will also light the fire. Alrighty, now that that's out of the way, it's time to start the ritual. Pretty simple, just pour gasoline or another flammable concoction on the ground. If you're creating a new portal, you'll have to trace the outline of the area. But if the portal is already clearly marked, a straight line from side to side will do. Afterwards, time to surround the portal and begin to chant. Conjuro potentiae Lucifer, patefacio a porta ad inferos, et tua diamond transire, sic urantar mundi. I promise, I got through that without stumbling. As the 30th repetition approaches, have the leader of the group approach the portal and light the fire. On the 60th repetition, all the magicians should kneel on one knee, hands stretched, palms facing the flames from a safe distance, with energy from the hands directed at the flames. Repeat the chant for 30 more repetitions in that position. I couldn't. My knees absolutely could not. But on the 90th repetition, either the flame will soar higher and spirits visible to all or some members of the group will jump out of the flames, or another supernatural occurrence will be felt. If one of the members of the group feels summoned to enter the portal at this point, it can be done while the remaining magicians are channeling their energy into it. So the remaining magicians should remain in the kneeling position described previously, while 1 or 2 people at most pass through the portal. It's vital that the portal remains open so that the traveler or travelers have an exit. Don't wander off too much, because if your partner's concentration begins to falter, you could remain trapped forever in a state of doom and frenzy. Good luck on that front! In 4th place, we have the Cave of Sibyl. Naples, Italy is home to a gateway to hell called the Cave of Sibyl, which was described by Virgil over 2,000 years ago in the Aeneid. If I'm quoting directly, the gates of hell are open night and day. Smooth the descent and easy is the way. According to the poet, the Trojan hero of the same name met the oracle Sibyl here, and she guided him through the cave into hell. In 1932, after centuries of searching, explorers finally uncovered this entrance to the netherworld. Now today, visitors to the Cumae archaeological site can go inside Sibyl's cave and walk through her coffin-shaped rock-cut passageways. Okay, before someone asks about the ritual enacted, that was done privately by the prophetess, and I felt like since she left the portal behind, it deserved a spot on today's list. Partially because I wanted to emphasize that portals have been enacted since the beginning of time, and hey, if you need a portal, I'm not saying you should go here, but this place could have some strong energy for it. Don't do it, but if you are. In 3rd place, we have a ritual for summoning Satan. Once again, I'll be leaving elements out of this description. While I can't control what y'all do, I don't want any apocalyptic chaos on my conscience. My life is plenty exhausting enough without having that on its plate. This particular ritual comes from the Grimorium Verum, published by Jake Stratton Kent in 2009. So firstly, the magician must forge a pact with the demon that does the call dialing itself, a sort of psychopompic spirit called the CERN, whose sigil must be inscribed alongside the operant's initials at the outset of the process onto a ruby or correspondent precious stone. Ooh, I love rubies. So this amulet is to be worn inside the magician's breast pocket or on a necklace at all times. Essential to operating the Verum is a calendrical convention drawn from Hermetic astrology that utilizes both the planetary hours and assigns a spirit to each particular day of the week. So this dictates that the construction of most of the tools for the ritual are to be done at dawn over the course of a few weeks during a time when the moon is waxing. So unlike the ritual I kicked off today with, this one is much more time consuming. The actual ritual of summoning must be done at an appointed time, depending on the properties of the demon. So to compel the dark host, the magician must cut a branch at dawn from both a virgin elder tree on the day of Asaroth and hazelwood on the day of Surgat, inscribing upon them the seals of the demons Fremost and Klepot, to be fashioned into wands of evocation and divination, respectively. Similarly, the materials for the signing of the pact are to be purified and consecrated at dawn, also on the day of Astaroth. The Verum conveniently includes instructions for the consecration of a ritual stabby implement intended to sacrifice a goat, as well as its scanning, scraping, stretching, and curing into parchment upon which the demon sigil will be copied. The writing of the contract on the parchment, including the copying of the sigil of CERN, the demon seals, and the drafting of all legal agreements, is to be done at dawn on the day of Beelzebub. Special herbs and incense are then used to immerse the magician in a sensory tradition. A mixture of mace, frankincense, and aloe wood is burned in a censer upon the altar at the ceremony and used to fumigate all tools for the operation. For purity, the magician must anoint themselves and their tools in a sprinkling of holy water mixed with mint, marjoram, and rosemary that is bound by a thread spun by a maiden. The setting of the ceremony demands a magic circle that should be roughly 9 feet in diameter and must be drawn with a stabby implement, consecrated at dawn on the day of Silkard, and drenched in red mole fluid and juice of pimpernel. Within the circle's center, the magician is to draw the triangle of evocation, upon which is set the ceremonial altar. The ritual itself prescribes a rite of sanctification, using the wand to mimic alternating flail lashes, and a recitation of personal exhortations. Then, after a series of prayers used to elevate the operant's magical authority, the spirit is to be called forth. After chanting an incantation of barbarous names, the demons must be summoned in top-down hierarchy order. First petitioning one of the unholy trinity of Lucifer, Astaroth, and Beelzebub, then calling upon one of their 7 dukes, and then finally the demon further down the hierarchy which you wish to actually summon. Following an exhausting hours-long rite, the desired demon is believed to appear, either as a presence or as a vision in a mirror. So from here, the magician might sign a pact with the particular demon, and the rest depends on what is needed. And how you treat the demon. They're pretty dang tricky beings. In second place, we have Houska Castle. Located north of Prague, Houska Castle is a 13th century Gothic masterpiece that sits on top of Hell's Gate. Aesthetically speaking alone, I would love to visit it someday. According to local lore, the castle's chapel was built to cover an enormous hole in the ground that served as a satanic threshold. So I haven't been able to find the specifics on the rituals used to open the portal, but it was too important to leave off today's list. The defensive walls also prevented demons and other ghastly creatures from crawling out of the hellhole. Animal-human hybrids were reported to have crawled out of it, and dark-winged, otherworldly creatures flew in its vicinity. Legend has it that when construction began in the castle, all the prisoners that were sentenced to death were offered a pardon if they consented to be lowered by rope into the hole and report back on what they saw. So when the first person was lowered, he began screaming after a few seconds, and when pulled back to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years. He had grown wrinkles and his hair had turned white. Ugh. May I recommend trying to find a modern-day Buffy? She'd be anyone's best bet for closing a hellmouth. During World War II, the bad German guys occupied the castle until 1945. The Yahtzees were said to have conducted experiments and summonings into the occult. According to one source, locals were certain that they had been using the powers of hell for their experiments. So Houska Castle is still considered haunted, and many tourists have reported seeing headless horses and demonic winged beasts lurking in the halls. And finally, in first place, we have the Ouija board recovered from the Donovan household. Yep. Ouija boards count as demonic rituals. I repeat, as always, leave the stupid things in the store or wherever you found them. Not worth it. Patty Donovan was simply a lonely teenager who thought the board could find her a friend, and well, it found her a manipulator. She spent months falling in love with a spirit she believed to be in love with her, telling it secrets about her everyday life, becoming emotionally dependent on the spirit. So on the evening of March 2nd, 1974, Patty pleaded for the spirit to manifest. Yeah, the next morning, her father, Theodore Donovan, found the spark plug wires pulled out, the rubber hose unfastened, and the fan belt cut when he attempted to start his car. Not much later, Patty attempted to start her car, and it was discovered that the internal engine had been completely disassembled. That week, other incidents of apparent vandalism occurred around the Donovan house, and Patty could no longer raise her invisible boyfriend on the Ouija board. Night after night, she tried to communicate, but the planchette would simply slide over to goodbye. She had no idea that her ethereal boyfriend had actually manifested in the form of a supernatural vandal. By the second week of March, material damage to the house and cars had become so troublesome that Ted complained to the police. When they arrived, he pointed out the destruction done to garden plants and shrubs, the exterior of the house, and the apparent intrusion into a locked garage to puncture tires and tear engines apart. Before leaving, the policeman assured Ted that they'd keep an eye on the property during night patrols. Later that second week, after work, Ted and his wife Ellen were sitting in the kitchen with their son Brian when all three heard something smash against a wall somewhere inside the house. And after investigating, they found a gaping 18-inch hole in the plasterboard wall inside Brian's room. Just as upsetting was the fact that the jagged edges of the plasterboard were pointing inwards, with the blow coming from inside the walls. The house was further plagued by loud noises every night that only escalated in frequency and volume, along with further unexplainable damage to the walls. On April 1st, furniture began to levitate, with a 250-pound dresser flinging its contents while flying erratically. Rocks had also begun to rain from the sky, pelting only the Donovan house, which the police bore witness to. Ted eventually broke down at work and explained the horror of his home to his supervisor, who urged him to reach out to our favorite people, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So Ted instead tried moving his family into a hotel first, and the spirits followed the family there, destroying the room and making so much noise that the family was thrown out of the hotel and forced to return home. Finally contacting the Warrens, they arrived in Maine as quickly as they were able to, and oh my goodness. Lorraine said nothing, although at the time she sensed in the home the presence of entities so numerous and threatening that she had to fight with herself to keep from going back outside. After a lengthy tour of the house, Ed and Lorraine conducted an interview with the entire family, where Patty's history with the Ouija board was revealed. The Warrens then contacted the Catholic Church to begin the process for an exorcism to be granted, which sadly took about a month. The family experienced many more unexplainable horrors during that time. After the exorcism took place on May 2nd, the family was finally free of the demonic torment, but left with over $5,000 in damages, which would be over $30,000 in today's money.